Imagine a world vastly different from our own. Picture a place where the boundaries of history have shifted and the familiar stories we know have taken a completely new direction. What if the echoes of an ancient empire still shape the world around us today? A world where the Roman Empire never crumbled. Instead of collapsing in 476 CE, it weathered the storm. The emperors found new ways to adapt, forging alliances and embracing change, allowing Rome to thrive through the ages. Imagine Roman senators debating new laws in marble halls, while citizens from every corner of the empire gather in vibrant marketplaces. This wasn't the end, it was just the beginning of a whole new chapter. The sun never truly set on Rome, and its influence continued to grow, weaving itself into the fabric of daily life for generations to come. Think about Europe. Today, it's a tapestry of nations, each with its own story. But in this world, the borders are blurred and the cities pulse with a shared Roman heartbeat. The architecture, the roads, even the way people greet each other, all bear the unmistakable mark of Rome. But in this alternate timeline, things are different. Very different. The map of Europe is dominated by a single sprawling empire, its borders stretching from the windswept coasts of Britannia to the deserts of Africa, and from the Atlantic shores to the distant reaches of the east. Could a single empire really hold such a vast area together? Imagine legions marching along endless roads, governors overseeing distant provinces, and a network of trade and communication that binds millions of people under one banner. The Roman Empire's survival would have sent ripples through time, altering the course of history as we know it. Scientific discoveries, artistic movements, and even revolutions might have unfolded differently, all under the watchful eye of Rome. From the languages we speak to the religions we follow, everything would be touched by Rome's enduring legacy. Latin might be the language of daily life, and ancient Roman gods could share space with new beliefs, creating a rich tapestry of culture and tradition. Let's journey into this what if and explore the possibilities of a world where the Roman Empire never fell. What wonders would we see? What challenges would we face? The answers lie in the roads not taken and the stories yet to be told. A world shaped by the might, the majesty, and the enduring power of Rome. Step into this alternate reality and discover how one empire could have changed everything. Or Roman rule forever? The question lingers over the ruins and relics of a civilization that once stretched from the windswept coasts of Britain to the sun-baked sands of Egypt. What if the Roman Empire had never fallen? Would Europe have become a single, united entity under the eagle of Rome? Or would the shadow of Roman rule have stifled the birth of new nations and ideas for centuries to come? Would a surviving Roman Empire mean a united Europe? It's tempting to say yes, picturing a continent bound together by Roman roads, law, and language. But the answer is far more complex than a simple yes or no. While Roman rule fostered a degree of unity through shared infrastructure, currency, and even citizenship, it was never about erasing local identities. The empire was a patchwork of cultures, religions, and languages, all coexisting under the Roman banner. Instead of distinct countries like France or Spain, we might see Roman provinces, each with its own flavor but loyal to the empire. Local customs and traditions would persist, but the overarching identity would be Roman, not national. The legal system, too, would have evolved differently. Roman law might have become the universal standard, shaping everything from property rights to personal freedoms across the continent. This raises questions about power. Would emperors rule from a single throne, or would they need to share power with regional leaders? Perhaps a more federal system would have emerged, with local governors wielding real influence, but always answering to Rome. The very idea of nation-states, so central to our world, might never have taken root. The familiar patchwork of flags and borders could have been replaced by a single imperial standard, flying over cities from Lisbon to Constantinople. Democracy, as we know it, might have struggled to emerge. The Roman system, with its emperors and senates, was hierarchical and often autocratic, favoring order and stability over popular rule. The Roman system, with its emphasis on emperors and senates, could have continued to shape political thought. Ideas of citizenship and civic duty might have evolved, but the concept of individual nations fighting for self-determination could have remained foreign. Imagine a world where nationalism never really took hold, where loyalty lay with the empire, not with a specific king or queen. The sense of belonging would be to Rome itself, a vast and diverse superstate. Latin might have remained the language of daily life, and Roman customs could have shaped everything from education to architecture, leaving an even deeper imprint on European culture. It's a fascinating, if slightly unsettling, thought. The Europe we know, diverse, sometimes divided but fiercely independent, might never have existed at all. Language, a cornerstone of culture, would have been deeply affected by a surviving Roman Empire. Imagine walking through the streets of any major European city from Londinium to Lutetia and hearing Latin spoken everywhere, from the marketplace to the halls of government. The influence of Rome would have shaped not just the words people used, but the very way they thought and communicated. Latin, the language of the Romans, might have become the dominant tongue across Europe. It could have been the language of law, science, philosophy, and daily life, uniting people from distant provinces under a single linguistic banner. Education, literature, and even popular songs might have all been in Latin, creating a shared cultural identity. But would it have remained static? Probably not. Languages are living things, constantly evolving. Over centuries, Latin would have absorbed words and expressions from local cultures, adapting to new realities and technologies. The Latin spoken in the far west might have sounded quite different from that in the east, reflecting the diversity of the empire. We might have seen regional variations of Latin, eventually giving rise to new, distinct languages, though likely with a shared Latin root. These dialects could have become the ancestors of modern languages, but with a much stronger connection to their Latin origins, making communication across Europe easier for centuries. Religion is another fascinating aspect to consider. The spiritual life of the empire would have been shaped by both tradition and change, as old gods and new beliefs coexisted and sometimes clashed. Christianity, adopted by the Roman Empire in our timeline, would likely have remained a dominant force. Its rituals, prayers, and teachings would have been deeply intertwined with Roman customs, and Latin would have been the language of faith for millions. But without the fall of Rome, would it have developed in the same way? The fragmentation of the church, the rise of different denominations? These might not have happened. A unified Roman state could have kept the church more centralized, preventing many of the schisms that shaped European history. Alternatively, other religions might have found it even harder to gain a foothold in a Europe dominated by a powerful and long-lasting Roman state. The reach of Roman authority, both secular and spiritual, could have made it difficult for alternative faiths to flourish, shaping not just language but the very soul of Europe for generations to come. The Roman Empire's reach was vast, but it never reached the Americas. Or did it? In our alternate timeline with Rome's continued existence, could they have sailed west? Imagine Roman galleons landing on the shores of a new world. How would that have impacted the indigenous populations? Would we see a Roman colony in the Americas, centuries before Columbus? The geopolitical landscape would be unrecognizable. Without the rise of European powers like Spain and England, colonization, as we know it, might never have happened. The world's power dynamics would have been completely different. And what about global conflicts? Would the two world wars, which defined the 20th century, have occurred? It's impossible to say for sure, but a strong, enduring Roman Empire could have fundamentally altered the course of global conflict. Ruling a vast empire is no easy feat, even for the Romans. Overextension, which, has been a constant challenge for empires throughout history, would have been a major concern. Governing distant lands, maintaining communication, and ensuring the loyalty of far-flung provinces would have required immense resources and, honestly, a deft political touch. Then there's the issue of economics. The Roman Empire faced economic challenges in our timeline, and these wouldn't have magically disappeared in this alternate version. Maintaining a large army, building infrastructure, and funding the empire's vast bureaucracy would have required a robust and adaptable economy. So, could Rome have overcome these internal challenges? It's certainly possible, but it would have required wise leadership, adaptability, and perhaps just a bit of luck. The Roman Empire, even at its peak, was surrounded by potential enemies. The so-called barbarian tribes, constantly testing the empire's borders, would have remained a persistent threat. Could the Roman legions, renowned for their discipline and effectiveness, have held the line? Or would the sheer pressure on the frontiers have eventually overwhelmed even the mighty Roman war machine? The answer likely lies in Rome's ability to adapt. Could they have continued to integrate and assimilate tribes into the empire, as they had done in the past? Or would they have faced a relentless tide of migration and conflict that ultimately proved too much to handle? Empires, like everything else, require money to function. The Roman Empire was no exception. Maintaining a strong army, building infrastructure, and financing the vast bureaucracy all required a steady stream of revenue. In our timeline, the Roman Empire faced economic challenges, including inflation and over-reliance on slave labor. These issues wouldn't have magically disappeared in a world where Rome never fell. To survive, the Roman Empire would have needed to adapt its economic policies. Could they have found new sources of revenue? Could they have reformed their labor system to be more sustainable? The answers to these questions could have determined the empire's long-term fate. The Pax Romana, a period of unprecedented peace and prosperity within the Roman Empire, is often romanticized. But could it have lasted forever, even in our alternate timeline? It's unlikely. Empires, like all things, are subject to cycles of growth and decline. Even with a strong and enduring Roman state, the world would have continued to change. New ideas, new technologies, and new challenges would have inevitably arisen. The Roman Empire, to survive, would have needed to adapt to these changes. Could they have done so? Or would the very things that made them strong, their traditions, their institutions, have ultimately led to their downfall? The idea of a Roman Empire that never fell is a tantalizing one. It forces us to confront fundamental questions about history, power, and the nature of change itself. Would the world be a better place if Rome had endured? There's no easy answer. A surviving Roman Empire might have brought stability and prosperity, but it could have also stifled innovation and led to a very different kind of world, perhaps one less familiar and less appealing. Ultimately, the Roman Empire, like all empires, was a product of its time. It rose, it flourished, and in our timeline, it fell. But its legacy continues to shape our world, reminding us of the enduring power of ideas, the complexities of history, and the endless possibilities of what if.